Alright, so this video is primarily aimed towards people who have, let's say, like a Logitech G920 and are looking to upgrade to the Moza ecosystem, Moza, however the fuck you pronounce it. Coming from someone who has been a long-term Logitech user of, God, nearly 10, 11 years, maybe longer. Started back when I was about 6 with the Logitech Driving Force GT, then up to a G920 for many years, then a G27, and then back to a G920 for no real reason other than the fact they came up cheap, and at the time modifications and add-ons for the G27 was more supported, so I went with one of those. Either way, this is the latest iteration of my cheap budget setup, as I'm not made of money, as you can see by the state of my spare room. But it was time to move on from Logitech. I, not tooting my own horn, felt like they were holding me back and I'd reached the limits of the wheel. So what I've got here is the Moza R5 bundle with the pedals and the wheelbase and steering wheel itself. I have got the SRP light clutch pedal because the base pedals do not come with those, or that I should say. The HGP shifter, the H-pattern manual shifter that Moza has recently brought out from my understanding, the HBP handbrake, as I do pretty much all kinds of driving, rally, drifting, even like truck simulator here and there. And I've never had a handbrake. It's always been weight transfer, drifting, you know, utilizing the car's chassis and weight transfer to manipulate the car into what I want it to do. So initial thoughts so far, or I should address a video saying what's actually going to be included. Good chat about the wheel, what I've noticed from someone who doesn't know an awful lot about sim racing and what I'm actually looking at, but just how it feels to me. And my experience so far. I do want to make it clear I've had this wheel for a day, so my driving's got a lot to be desired. Excuse me. But yeah, let's get into it. So, as we can see, the Moza R5 quick release. This is a fantastic system. I've ordered a generic quick release hub because I didn't have the money at the time to order the Moza made hub. So I can run a deep dish for, you know, drifting that should give the wheel a bit more inertia, because I found that this wheel's just too small for drifting. That could also be due to the settings, but yep, press it back on. I'm using my what's it called? Next Level Racing Challenger Sim Cockpit. Got this off Facebook for 200 bucks. Ergonomics are good. This cockpit is not designed to fit any of this equipment. I have drilled holes and just made stuff work. The wheel is very precariously mounted on some washers because it wouldn't pivot high enough upwards. It just wasn't a natural position. I will make this better at some point. It was just to get it on the stand for now. Shifter is absolutely beautiful. I'm not normally a fan of gated manual shifters, as my only other experience with one was the Thrustmaster shifter, which is, from anyone that's used it, very gooey, very loose, no resistance in gears, and I'd always miss gears. This is great because you've got the lockouts on either reverse and 7th gear, so you can just go all the way over to that wall, put it in first, hold it there second. You can shift quick. It's got excellent resistance. It's built like a fucking tank. To engage 7th, you push down, then over. I don't ever use 7th, but reverse, down, push over. Selects the correct gears every time. The Logitech shifters, I've had so many of them. When you shift too fast, or I even had one when the weather was cold, you know, sometimes selecting 3rd, the shifter would actually pick 1st or 5th, which was annoying, so I would rage and smack it up into 3rd and break them. Handbrake is excellent. I haven't played around with springs or you know, where it bites, because everything's adjustable with it, which is fantastic. The pedals feel really nice from a Logitech. You know, they're made out of metal. They're solid. A solid kick cockpit makes such a difference for immersion and the feeling of the quality of everything. The brake pedal. So without the upgrade kit, because I have got the SRP Lite brake pedal upgrade kit, it felt very similar to Logitech G27 pedals. You know, just no progression, just a lightweight pedal. And, you know, I was used to those for many years, but I would find in sim racing I'd lock up all the time without ABS. A step above that was the G920 pedals, that rubber dampener inside that they had, which, you know, was very controversial, but I found it useful in threshold braking and stuff like that. But this upgrade kit is great. It's a lot stiffer. And then you've got that rubber dampener there to kind of simulate threshold braking with a car with no ABS, or even with ABS, and then you can push it a little bit past that. But it's a lot better. So far, the driving experience has been fantastic. It did take a long time to set up and get dialed in, and I'm still not there yet, because I don't have much knowledge on force feedback settings and everything that comes with that. So yeah, just to recap that. So the software has been hit and miss. It's probably been the biggest downside of this wheel so far. Not because of the functionality in the settings, it's all great. It just hasn't worked as expected. So I'm not sure if a lot of these settings, they don't really make sense to me. The basic settings do, and if you're ever unsure, for every setting that they do have this information icon. Changing presets on the fly is very easy, very good. You can change it as long as the software is open. You don't need to restart the wheelbase or anything. I have made a custom preset at the moment. I've saved it. Out of the box though, this wheel was goddamn nearly undrivable. So when I was going in a straight line, you know, fast, flat out, the wheel would violently shake back left and right. I ended up following a tutorial online from, I can't remember the channel, but I will put a link here, and gave me a good explanation and breakdown of all the settings. So definitely watch that if you've just gotten this bundle, or any direct drive really. And it's allowed me to have a much more natural feeling wheel now. So this stuff, again, I will tune it as I go along and work out what I'm doing really. There's an equalizer for the force feedback, which makes sense to me, but I don't know what frequency range does what it's going to feel like in the game, if it's going to take away or add to the driving experience. You can have like a, you know, a linear curve for the force feedback. I don't know anyone that would change this. I don't know. Then obviously your MISC changes. Not much here really. Pedals, again, you can change your pedal curves. I'm still yet to kind of muck around with this. You know what, I'm going to run it as that just for now. I don't have one of those. So this is where the experience has been brought down for me. So the shifter and the handbrake are able to be run standalone, which I was almost going to do, as I've had a lot of trouble with this universal hub and primarily this handbrake getting it working. Now, I don't know if this is because the software is in its infantile days, being, you know, a relatively new company, but basically when I plugged this stuff in for the first time, the handbrake was unactivated and it was in boot mode and it was stuck, and I tried the one-click upgrade option, which just didn't work. It made the wheel freak out. I ended up doing an offline firmware upgrade for the wheel, and I fucked around with it for like 2 hours. It worked out that when I unplugged the handbrake, reinstalled the software a couple of times, played around with the USB settings in Device Manager to allow Windows, to not allow Windows to control the power of the device in power saving mode, whatever the fuck it's called. Anyway, that was sorted. All of these devices were out of upgrade mode because they were stuck in there. And then I got the shifter and the hub back, which was great. And then when I plugged the handbrake in, it went all back to how it was. So what I ended up having to do was plug in this USB cable to my PC, as well as having it plugged into the hub. And what that did was prompted me to activate the handbrake in this software, which worked when I restarted the software after that point. So my suspicion is either A, it is the software, or it's dependent on my setup. So I'm using some generic shitty eBay USB 2.0 hub because my PC's over there, via a long USB cable. And I've read that in the manual it actually specifies with the universal hub that you need to use USB 3.0, and if you don't, they supply you an additional USB 2.0, an additional USB-C power cable for the hub itself. Otherwise it won't work. So I have a feeling it's something to do with this USB hub and the fact it's using one USB port for all this information. And it's USB 2.0 and shit like that. So either way, I've got it working all together. I couldn't use the devices standalone for some reason. They just wouldn't appear. I don't know if it's supposed to appear in the software or if they're just a game controller, generic game controller thing in the games that you're binding them in, but I'm not sure. Either way, it's working. That was my experience so far, and it was pretty frustrating. Another thing I've noticed is if you are using a Logitech like myself, the games do have the residual settings from the Logitech. They need to be changed, otherwise you're going to have a very poor driving experience. Stuff like, for example, I would run the force feedback up at 150% on the Logitechs. Nearly broke my fucking arms off the first time I did that with this. And yeah, it just made it for a robotic experience. So basically, I did a lot of my own research on this wheel. I now know exactly what they mean when they say detail, precision, speed, opposed to a Logitech. It's fantastic. You know, you can feel ABS when you lock up, vibrates the wheel ever so slightly. You can feel ripple strips. Again, you can actually change all these effects as well. And it's really, even the undulations in the road, it really changes the driving experience and the feedback you're getting from the car. You can tell what it's doing a lot more, because on a sim, you only have feedback through your eyes and through the steering wheel and your knowledge of inertia and what a car does. The Logitech, you know, whilst I did a lot with that wheel compared to some other people I've seen, I don't want to sound full of myself, but that's just was my experience with it. It's been really different for me going to this. If anything, I'm slower. If anything, I don't drive as good as I did on the Logitech because I was so used to it. But you know, you would go to correct, let's say, a micro correction in a car like the Mazda 787B, and you would have to know that that car was going to do it before it happened to actually correct it really fast, because that was a subconscious thing that I did because of the actual latency of the wheel and the sensors. It wouldn't keep up. This is fucking laser fast. It happens. You catch it. It's done. It's over. You're going straight again. And it's incredible. I think in time, once I'm more used to it and I dial in the settings a bit more and I've got some more skill, I will be quite fast. So that's what I've noticed so far. It's just, yeah, the 5 Newton meters is plenty. So that's my racing experience anyway. So with drifting, it's, again, a pretty good experience, but I think I need to tune the software more. I've got a quick release hub from AliExpress coming so I can run a deep dish on, because I don't feel this wheel being so small has enough inertia for drifting when you flick the wheel and go to catch it, or you don't even need to flick it really if you're just under power, which is something you could never do with a Logitech. You had to flick it because it was almost like you were part of the force feedback. Again, these are all settings that can be changed, and I haven't played around with them a great deal. Like, for example, advanced settings, natural inertia. For drifting, I don't know what the preset is set at. I have honestly not really played with the settings in the drift preset much. You know, I can't remember what the other setting was. Oh, here we are. So steering wheel inertia. Again, I don't think this is enabled by default on the drift preset. Don't know how much it makes a difference. It's all very early days, so I don't know, but I can drift on the sim. The handbrake is fantastic because I've never had a handbrake with drifting. It allows me to extend the line and stuff and make transitions a little bit easier. It's good to save yourself as well. I'm still working out when it's appropriate to use it, but you know, again, this shifter is fantastic. So look, let's start out with drifting, I suppose. So what's drift car that I'd like? Sorry for the messy commentary as well. I don't have a script or anything. I'm just talking absolute gabagoo out of my mind. EDC. I drive a lot of street drift cars. These cars are a little bit too wild for my taste. Not because they're hard to drive, but because they're actually too easy to drive. What was I driving? It was an IS200. I've only got like 2 hours of experience on this so far, but Let's go for a stock IS200, and we'll do a Bisu Toge course. Very technical, challenging course, but really good fun. I've already tried with this wheel, but basically this is a kind of comparison back to back that I did with the Logitech. I could not do this in the Logitech. You know, I did link it once, but it was really hard. It wasn't tidy without a handbrake, with the downsides of the Logitech. As for setup, we'll just bump up that final drive a little bit to get a bit more wheel speed in second. Gonna leave the tire pressure, gonna put some more fuel in it. ABS, not even gonna touch the camber or the toe or anything like that. We're just gonna jump in. So I now get confused which direction I'm going here, excuse me. There we go. Yeah, so I just went for the handbrake to change gear. Let's just put this seat back a little bit. Alright. So this car doesn't skid as well until the tyres are kind of a bit soft. A bit low in tread, I should say. Low power. Then. Oh. Now I can immediately tell that I am on my race preset, because when you go to drift like that, the wheel actually kind of, I won't say binds, but it doesn't smoothly countersteer itself. So if I now click the drift preset, that should, you know what, let's even bump up this wheel speed a bit. Alright, take two. Promise I can drive. You know what, you guys can be the judge of that. Excuse my crippling nicotine addiction. Alright. Back first. Second. Run the long track here, and then handbrake for this corner because it's got no power. Here's really tricky with the Logitech. Just bum drag it with a handbrake. Right. Fuck that up. Right, I'll get warmed up, I promise. Man, I kind of suck. Horsepower on a good day. Oops. Bit too shallow. Oh, missed third. Missed second. It's not the shifter's fault, it's I didn't clutch in long enough. Oops. So, I promise I can link it. But, you know, gets the job done. So let's just, over the top of a replay here, let's just say, I don't bash on the Logitech, like, I got this far with just a Logitech. You know, I'm not fucking professional by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, it shows that I've played it for a long time, that's all I will say. Do I still recommend a Logitech anything? Absolutely. If you're starting out, if you're getting into anything to do with sim racing, 100%. It teaches you the fundamentals. Oh, that's funny. It teaches you the fundamentals of, you know, weight transfer, what a car does at the limit. It's just the communication from the wheel. Let's say when you're translating into a real car, and I've done, you know, a small amount of drifting in a real car, yeah, it can be lost. Or, for example, if you're someone that is really good in a real car and you jump onto a sim and you're used to that feedback through your body of what the car's chassis is doing, they struggle on a sim. And I've found people that are good in a real car, since they've jumped on this, as I've had one or two people give it a go, are a lot better than what they are in a Logitech. Now, this is expensive. It's really cheap in terms of, you know, the high-end stuff, but for someone like me, it's quite expensive, and I'm used to the $200 special used Logitech off Facebook Marketplace, you know. This was $1,600 thereabouts altogether. I sold one of my cars to fund this, and I took a gamble, and I didn't know if it was going to be that much better, but it just is. You know, I could do a lot of stuff on the Logitech, but it was challenging. I'm sure with a handbrake on the Logitech, I probably could have done everything here. I'm not any faster with this wheel, but it's a lot more engaging. I enjoy it more. It's just a step above, and unfortunately it is a big investment, but with what you get for the money here, you're getting a lot out of compared to what's out there. You know, you've got Fanatec options, you've got all these other brands really, and they're just too much. For someone like myself, I don't strictly sim race, I don't strictly drift, I do everything, which is what the Logitech enabled me to do. And you look at some of these sim setups and it's quite clearly just for drifting, just for sim racing, just for, sorry, circuit racing I should say. And I needed a middle ground, which is what this offers, all of this shit. So, enough said. It's enough of the Centrelink IS200. Let's do some circuit racing. Let's go for a Porsche. What have we got? No. Let's go for the 911R, hey? Pretty challenging car. SCH. Yeah, pretty challenging car, but you know, nothing compared to like a Mazda 787B or, you know, which I have driven around the Nürburgring since I've gotten this wheel. It's night and day difference. I do actually drive a lot better in that car. I take back what I said. So let's give this a crack. Again, jumping straight in, very little time with this wheel. Not going for a lap time here, just trying to show what the experience is like, I suppose. The gated manual really helps for immersion, just with the weight of it and everything, compared to the Logitech shifter, which I've tried so hard to make nice. Before I do that, I'll change the preset to race. I haven't tried just using one preset either for, you know, let's say if I leave the drift preset, I haven't tried that yet. I haven't driven this car with this wheel, with this setup. That was a terrible entry. Again, wouldn't be able to catch that with a Logitech. Alright, no slidey boy action. See, it's very lively, but it's communicating all of this to me. Ah, cooked it. Just ignore me. What am I doing? Let's try this again. I did have another go at recording this video, and I actually encountered an issue with the wheel on video, which I'll put up now, I suppose. Oh, interesting, we caught that on video. It looks like my shifter's dropped out. What's going on? Yep, so this is what happens sometimes. Doesn't bother me that much, but it could be very frustrating if you're someone that does iRacing or something like that and you're online. So we just got to basically restart the wheel. Now the universal hub will also have dropped out, which is really annoying. So what I usually do is exit the software, open it again, granted it admin privileges as well, and it probably still won't be working. Yep, so that means I need to unplug it from my little hub down here and plug it back in. I can find the hole. Now, fingers crossed, I should do it. I might need to restart the software again. I think I do. Fuck, what's happening? So the software's actually frozen. Oh, there we go. Now it should be back. Yep, it is. So I don't know if this is a result of, you know, still being an infant kind of software package, or maybe compatibility with older machines like mine isn't great, or if it's just as a result of my setup. Benny! Thank you. You get the idea, that's all.